Well, it's that time of the week again. It's time for Chit Chat Across the Pond. This is episode number 818 for July 25th, 2025, and I'm your host, Allison Sheridan. This week, our guest is Adam Angst of Tidbits, here to bring us more of his sage wisdom. How are you today, Adam?
Parsley, sage, rosemary, and thyme wisdom? I don't know. Do we doing herbs today?
There you go. There you go. Well, my favorite article that you've written in Tidbits recently, because it's a subject so near and dear to my heart, was the process that you went through to switch from a 27-inch iMac to a 14-inch MacBook Pro, and the approach that you took to a lot of it. And there's a lot of different parts to this, but we're going to start with, why did you feel like you needed a new computer? That 27-inch iMac was a beaut.
Oh, it was. And man, I had a 2014 27-inch iMac before that. So I've been working on the 27-inch iMac for over a decade.
Wow.
Great machine. Love those machines. But the simple fact of the matter is it was Intel, and stuff was starting to not work. Like you can't get the ChatGPT app for Intel, for instance.
Oh.
Apple Intelligence doesn't work. That's no great loss.
But it will be.
Either it will be, or just actually where it was a loss was I couldn't test certain things.
Right.
So like I was using my M1 MacBook Air so that I could, I did know what Apple Intelligence did. I could try this other stuff. So I wasn't dead in the water. But it was pretty clear that the writing was on the wall for this Mac to be being phased out. And honestly, it was getting slower. That I was getting the spinning pizza more often than I wanted to. And just in general, things were feeling a little iffy. There's also, we'll talk more about this, but there was some weight. There was weight of having used the same machine for, I don't know how many, years of upgrades and moving data over and whatnot. And, I think I wrote an article about this. Like, I think I had 49 gigabytes of Backblaze backups, because it has to store some data locally to know about the backups.
Yeah, and that's not the backup. That's the data about the backup. That's the metadata.
That's the data about the backup, right? And the drive was a terabyte drive. It was too full, or almost too full. But when I actually went and looked at a lot of stuff, I wasn't really using it. But it can be very hard when you do the kind of work we do, where you're testing a ton of apps. Believe me, I sort of need to look at Outlook for something. And I was asking Tanya if I could use her. She uses Outlook for work, so I can look at her copy of it. Because if I install Outlook and let it download my email, there's a gigabyte. It's like, I don't want to wait. It's like every time I touch an email client, it's a couple of gigabytes of data that, that gets stored forever until I try to hunt it down and root it out. And so there was just a little bit of time of like, okay, this is a good chance to get a new machine, and I put all the effort into the disk space thing because I was like, do I need a 2 terabyte drive?
Right.
And the decision was no, that I was actually just wasting a ton of space on cruft.
So I liken it a lot to being like, every time you move, just boxing everything up and never throwing anything away and just taking it to the next place. And maybe lots of it just stays in boxes. And you think that you need it, but you realize you've moved 4 times and you still haven't opened that box.
Well, and a lot of this stuff really is, like, how many copies of my local caches of my email do I need in different apps?
Oh, wow.
That I don't use.
Right.
It's just like, or I have apps that I literally don't know what they do. Because
I've done that. I go, hey, what's that? I haven't even written, I never even wrote it up. I installed it. I apparently didn't like it, and it's still there.
Yeah. Yeah. So, obviously I could just like reinstall macOS and, if I was on an extreme budget, yes, I could have just cleaned stuff up a huge amount, probably would have made the Mac a little faster. But the fact is that it was time, that a 5-year-old Mac, that's, an entire chip architecture behind, it's time to move on.
And macOS 27 isn't going to support it at all.
Right. At the time, I don't think I knew that because it was just before WWDC. But, it was obvious that it was going to be 26, 27, one of them was going to give it up. And so, and what I do, I need to be able to see the latest and greatest.
Sure.
It's not a productivity thing, it's merely a job function thing.
Right.
So,
So now
I held on longer than I probably should have.
with no 27-inch iMac ever on the horizon at this date, how did you choose what you were gonna use next?
Well, that was where it got really complicated because the thing that I did when I bought the 27-inch iMac from 2014, was I was like, "Oh my god, the Retina display, best thing ever. I love this. This is amazing. I want 2." And you could not get another one.
Right,
There was no standalone Retina display.
right.
And so I bought a 27-inch Thunderbolt display in 2014, which was, perfectly good, Thunderbolt display,
And they
display, but
never
it wasn't
die.
Retina.
Those things never die.
They don't die, although, man, their cables, the Thunderbolt cables tend to fray.
Oh.
And so I have trouble. We have 2 of them because Tanya bought exactly the same thing I did. And they both still work, but you do have to be a little careful with the cables because the insulation has just
I haven't
was
had trouble
disintegrated.
with that. I shouldn't say they never die. I had a 24-inch that died at 35 months into my 36 months of Apple Care, and they no longer made the 24, so they gave me a 27, and that one is still running on an iMac on a Mac Mini in our house.
So yeah. So basically, I've worked on 2 27-inch displays side by side since 2014.
Mhm.
And so one of the things that I was like, okay, if I'm going to make this jump, clearly the only way to get Retina at the size I want. I mean, the 24-inch iMac, it's a lovely little machine, but you can't get a matching monitor for it. I'm a great believer in matching screens because then you get a single big rectangle
Wait, there
desktop.
isn't a 24, is there? I thought there's only a
Isn't that what we got now?
20 or
24-inch
21 or
iMac?
something.
I think this isn't the current iMac 24?
I could definitely
Conflating.
keep going, and I will report back in 1 second.
So in any event, but the new iMacs are nice. Don't get me wrong. And I looked at them, but their screens are just not quite as big, and there's no matching monitor for them. So that was basically
You're correct,
my
24. My bad.
yes. Okay.
Okay.
Um,
Why do I even argue?
it was previously the 21.5 and the
Yeah,
27.
that's what I'm
and blah,
thinking
blah, blah.
of.
So yeah. So basically, I put it. I cannot tell you how much time I spent thinking about, like, well, what about the LG? What about, and then BenQ and Asus came out with 5K displays, and and I actually have multiple iMac 27-inch iMacs that could have been hacked into monitors.
Well, like
Like,
using
there's ways
the
of doing.
Luna display.
No, 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 no. I mean, like ripping out their
Oh,
motherboards and
okay.
turning them into
Well, you could
monitors.
use a
There's
Luna
instructions.
display and make
They
it
don't work. Don't work with it.
100% do.
Um,
100% do. My best
Yeah.
friend Ron, I told him about it. He set it up. He's been using it for years.
It does makes the Apple Watch not work, for instance, for unlocking the Mac. Seriously, I wrote a big article about this. Used it.
Okay, but there are people using it, and it works very well for them. I don't think it's fair to say they don't work.
function. It is simply not as good as
Oh,
as a real monitor.
100% not as good.
Yeah.
But for $56,
Yeah. Yeah. I
okay.
mean, as I said,
You wouldn't choose
all of
it.
the things trade-offs. I had it. I didn't use it.
Okay.
I mean, I had a free one. I had a free iMac. It was not worth the headache. I went back to the Thunderbolt display.
Okay.
So, but basically what it came down to was, like, it's not, like, for what I do, I stare at these things all day long, every day. I'm just going to buckle down and get the Apple Studio displays.
Treat yourself.
Treat myself.
Your eyes deserve
that
it, Adam.
My eyes deserve it. I'm still a little miffed because the Apple Studio display was not the home run we wanted from Apple,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a good monitor, but it's
round
not
a second,
great.
maybe.
Yeah, and so it's like, and they're a little expensive, but by the time you get the other ones that are good enough, and then you need a webcam, and then you need a hub, and it's like, fine, I'm just going to get that. So that then, and part of the reason why I actually waited this long was there weren't all that many Macs that could drive two studio displays
Oh,
by default. Like initially, I've been using a MacBook Air, remember,
right.
and so M1 and M2 could only drive one external monitor. M3 could drive two external monitors if the lid was closed. M4 MacBook Air finally got to be able to drive two external displays with the lid open.
Yeah, I thought they did an update. That's with the MacBook Pros.
That's the Air. So the MacBook Pro could do more, but so I'm juggling between the MacBook Air.
Mhm.
Then I'm like, well, the 14-inch MacBook Pro isn't that much more, and it is more powerful.
Mhm.
And then there's the new the M4 Mac Mini, which could do that as well. And so that's when I got into the whole matrix of like, what are the possibilities of all of this? And um, long story short, there's just like it's this weird multivariable equation because, like if you have a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro, you get a third screen. Like 2 is
Mhm.
good, but 3 is better, just on principle. Um, but you only get that third screen, at least particularly in my particular desk setup, if you're using it open and using its keyboard and mouse, or keyboard and trackpad.
Right.
And, because I don't have room for it to be somewhere off to the side and use an external keyboard and trackpad. Plus, as I noted, I use this weird Contour Designs Roller Mouse Pro thing, which puts the pointing device right in front of my space bar. And I am really used to that. I really like that from the laptop standpoint, too. I do not like trackpads or mice off to the side. I think
That
it's a
is
terrible ergonomic decision.
you and I have so much in common, and then there's every once in a while we run into these things like, "You're just wrong. It's great to the right." In fact, I hate using a trackpad on a laptop for that very reason. And it's so natural to me to keep my right hand over to the trackpad. I love it.
Yep. You're so accustomed to it. Um, but so the ergonomics of having to move anything off of center is not great. That's ergonomic. People want you to be centered if at all possible.
But isn't movement,
Um,
to change up what your hands are doing good for you? That's one of the things they do say is
mm,
good for you. So lifting your hand off the keyboard
mm,
and going over someplace else can be better.
nah, that doesn't. Yeah, not with your hands and arms, because you're always reaching, and it's always asymmetrical. It's not like you're doing it with the other hand too. So
Oh, I need
you
a
end up like
trackpad
that
on
guy in
both
the Far Side
sides.
cartoon.
That would
Hmm?
be I want a trackpad on both sides now. I wonder if I could get my brain to do that. Switch contacts,
It's worth a try to go ambidextrous.
right? That'd be
I do that
cool.
a little bit on the I do that a little bit on the MacBook Pro, basically, because I can scroll with two fingers of either hand, and so if I'm just sitting reading something long, I'll sometimes switch hands, because I can do that really easily.
Okay.
But I couldn't do that if I was off to the all the way out to like reach across the keyboard with your left hand. That'd be weird.
Okay, so,
So
that's what drove you
so what
to
even
the displays drove you to the MacBook Pro, and now why not a Mac Mini or a Studio?
Well, the Mac Mini and the Mac Studio, the Studio was just overkill. I mean, that was ridiculous. I mean,
Okay,
I ended up going for the M4 Pro MacBook Pro, the low end one, just as a little bit of future proofing, and like, who knows if I want to do something more than the. I don't need it. The
okay.
MacBook Air, M4 plain chip for the MacBook Air, or the MacBook Pro, or the Mac Mini would be totally fine for everything I do. So that was just I forget how much more it was. It was like 250 or something like that, 300. So it was not enough more money that like, yeah, okay, just in case I want to run local LLMs or do something more high performance that I'm not anticipating now, that it was worth future proofing for that. The problem with the Mac Mini is I would have to get a whole nother keyboard, and my roller mouse was dying.
Mhm.
So I was going to have to switch. I would want an Apple keyboard because the other thing I didn't have on the iMac, because it predated all this stuff, Touch ID. Yep,
Right, right.
I wanted Touch ID. And so then I'm to an Apple keyboard, and then the Apple keyboard doesn't like. Then
Oh, I
there's all
just
the questions
figured
of like,
something out. You're actually typing on the MacBook Pro.
yeah,
You're not using an external keyboard.
right. I
Huh.
don't have to buy an external keyboard.
So
I saved like, 200, $200 by not buying another keyboard and mouse
so
or
the
trackpad.
the display of the MacBook Pro is in front of you, and that must mean the monitors are above that.
Yes.
So you're really
You have to
tall
see my
from the
standing
waist
desk
up
article.
versus me.
So I'm looking down at the MacBook Pro's screen, and that
Sure.
holds what I call ambient apps,
Okay.
like music and BusyCal, stuff that you look at and then you're not staring at it for any length of time. You are just, glancing at it periodically, messages, Slack,
Okay.
those kinds of things. And that keeps them off of my two big screens, where I can keep kind of primary stuff that I'm actually working on.
Mhm.
Um,
I'm doing that, but I do
and
it
so
off to the
yeah,
side because I have the,
it
XDR, so that but I have to
right.
the side, and right now, messages and Telegram and stuff are over on the right. It's sitting on the MacBook Pro when I need
The
it.
the other reason that I've lost my train of thought. The other thing with the keyboard and mouse was that you get into just so many more decisions in terms of like, well, if you want Touch ID, you have to get an Apple keyboard. But oh man, if you don't want Touch ID, there's so many other possible keyboards.
Mhm.
And then there's the trackpad, and then there's the mouse. I actually don't like mice at all. I do not. Yeah, not a big fan of the whole ergonomics of a
I'm
mouse.
glad we're in
Um,
sync on that one, Adam. I'd have to
I use
stop being
I mean,
friends with you.
before the Roller Mouse Pro, I used a trackball, and a long time ago, I actually had a trackball with a foot switch,
Mm.
so I could click with my foot. That
Wow.
was the best. Wouldn't work with standing desk, but any event. So basically by having it be we're typing on the MacBook Pro, it's also very similar to when I use the MacBook Air. So I'm not switching back and forth. That's where I was going with this. So I'm switching back and forth between two very different keyboard and pointing device systems.
Right.
So, because I did actually discover when I was because I had a big clicky DOS keyboard and the Roller Mouse Pro, I did discover that switching back and forth between my iMac and the MacBook Air, it was actually a little difficult sometimes to, like, get my fingers reaccustomed to the spacing of the keys and everything.
Okay, the context
They were
switching
so
you
different.
noticed it.
Yeah, and so this eliminates that switching. Now, I will say that um I am having a little bit more trouble becoming accustomed to typing on the MacBook Pro keyboard than I anticipated, and I think that's because I'm standing, I'm at more random distances from the keyboard. When I'm sitting with the thing in my lap, with the MacBook in my lap, like I would be mostly with the MacBook Air, um, I'm in a much more fixed position.
Hmm,
And
okay.
so like, when I put my hands down on the keyboard without looking, they're in the right place. Whereas when I'm standing, I can be half an inch further
You
back
do
and suddenly I'm in
wander.
the wrong place on the keyboard.
Nobody
Yeah,
knows this, but before we get started, we often have a talk about how far away Adam should be from the mic because he wanders.
I do. I move.
That's the point of the desk.
That's right. I am a high energy person. I need to fidget. So, I mean, I'm doing really well at staying this close to the mic and not in the camera and everything like that. You should see me normally.
Poor Adam, I constrain him.
So any events, yeah. So what it came right down to it was 14-inch MacBook Pro with an M4 Pro, two Apple Studio displays. I got 24 gig of RAM memory just to again future proof a little bit. And oh boy, is it a nice setup!
Yeah.
It's a really nice setup.
I wanted to circle back to one thing you said because I was double checking. When we were talking about lid closed versus open with two displays, were you saying it was the M4 Air that had to be the M4 in order to get two displays with the lid open? Yeah, because
Yes,
the M1 MacBook Pro 14-inch could do two external displays with the lid open.
yes. The, the
Okay,
the pros could, and
gotcha.
for a long time, I was just like, well, I don't need anything more than an Air because I really don't. I
Oh,
mean, from a basic processing standpoint, and so that's why I was always just focusing on the MacBook Air for over the
gotcha,
years.
gotcha.
But like, oh, if it doesn't do two displays, I can't use it.
And
Um,
I think it is the M1 MacBook Pro, right?
mhm.
Not the baseline
Yes,
M1
yeah,
MacBook Pro.
because it really was the M4 chip that allowed this. Like if you were just the
I'm
the
sorry,
M2
I'm
or
on
the
the
M
MacBook Pro. I'm saying the
Right.
M1 MacBook
Yes.
Pro had to be the Pro version of the M1 MacBook Pro.
Yes.
It didn't
Yeah,
have to be an
precisely, right.
M4.
Right. No, 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 but I'm saying that in those at the base level, the chip was never enough.
Yeah. I thought there was some point
If
where
you were doing the base level chip.
the MacBook Air could do something the MacBook Pro couldn't, and it had to do with this lid close thing. But anyway, we're past all
Yeah.
that. Nowadays, we're good. Okay, I told Adam not to spend so much time on the displays in the Mac and the computers.
So much.
The rest.
Impossible not to. Displays are the best.
Well, they are. I mean, are you happy that you bought 2 studio displays?
Yes. Yeah, yeah. I mean, one thing that people don't think about, but again, hits me all the time, is when you take a screenshot, your screenshot reflects the resolution of your display.
Mm.
And so I was constantly having to think about whether I wanted the like a window to be on my on my iMac or on the Thunderbolt display, because I would get a different screenshot depending on where it was.
I'm really surprised your brain could deal with retina and non-retina right next to each other and not just hate every minute of it. I mean, the size of the windows would change when you moved them over there, right?
Oh, no, no. They were running at the same resolution.
They were.
It was just fuzzier.
Oh.
Yeah, yeah. Because the retina, right, the retina's twice as good.
Sure.
It's 5120 versus 2560, but you pixel double it, so you shrink it.
Okay.
So yeah, no, it was a single rectangular desktop of all the same size. I just looked to the left, and it would be fuzzier.
So you put your glasses on to look to the left. That would drive me nuts.
I got used to it. Believe me, I was did it for 11 years, but it was not. It was always annoying. You would always notice.
Yeah, yeah. I have seen people who do both, and that would drive me crazy. Okay, so we've talked about why the MacBook Pro. You got the displays. Yay! Better webcam.
Yeah. So before I'd given, the 2020 iMac's webcam was not very good, and I had actually moved to using the iPhone with continuity camera.
I thought you had a 2017 iMac.
I had a 2020 iMac.
2020, sorry.
The last model of the iMac.
Okay, so it wasn't that old.
Yeah. No, I mean, it's 5 years old.
Yeah.
But so it came with a slightly better, it was like a 1080p camera rather than the 720 one. I mean, that was back, remember that was the early days of the pandemic when we were just starting to get into video conferencing and everyone suddenly realizes that Apple's webcams suck.
Yeah.
And so, but yeah, so the iPhone and continuity camera works very well as a webcam,
right?
But it's a little annoying. You got to put your iPhone, you got to grab it and you kind of put it up there, and then you can't use it while you're, if you need to look something up or whatever.
Right.
And so, and it also does not charge while you're doing that, as I discovered. So you can run basically if you have to do like a 2 hour Zoom or whatever, and then you grab your phone and leave, you can be pretty low on power.
Even plugged in, it doesn't.
I was using it in a MagSafe. I'd have to revisit the article I wrote about that. MagSafe will not charge during, because I was using a MagSafe.
MagSafe or just magnetic
to hold it. It was MagSafe.
Oh, okay. So the MagSafe connector was plugged into power, but it wasn't charging it.
Yes.
Oh, that's weird.
It would not charge the phone during. And so if I was just home, it wasn't a problem because I would usually forget to take it off after the Zoom ended, and
then it would charge.
And then it would charge while it was sitting up there.
Okay. All right. Now you had to modify
all sorts of new hardware.
You had to modify your desk.
I did. So I mean, you can see the picture in my article, and I actually just did another big article about standing desks because someone asked, and this apparently is a very funny desk. It is an IKEA Yerker desk, and spelled Jerker. And basically, it's these two kind of upside down T's. So you got supports on the floor, and then these two uprights, and then you can put shelves between them. And Tanya and I got a couple of these in 1996 or something like that. And have used them ever since. And they're great because you can move your shelves anywhere up and down those two uprights. You have to take screws. It's not easy to change it, but once you decide where you want it, it's very, very adjustable. And Tanya's on the shorter side, so she, like a lot of standard desks, never worked for her. Like she could not get them at the right height. And so that was really a big win for her. And simultaneously, I was a little tall, so a standard desk often didn't work for me on the other side of it. So we were very happy about these desks, and I had cannibalized all of the various parts that we've had. She's switched to a different desk by now, and so I now have this perfectly designed um, double-sided desk. So if I do want to sit down and use another Mac on the other side, I can sit over there, or I can stand on this side and use my main machine standing up.
Now, the thing I could never figure out with a standing desk is where do you put all your little crap like pencils and pads of paper and scissors? Where does all that stuff
Well,
go?
you can see it's nice and clean because I redone it recently.
Mhm.
But there's the way it works is there's a typing surface, because the important thing with standing desks, and actually, I mean, this is the problem with laptops, right? Laptops suck ergonomically. They are terrible because they do not separate the display and the keyboard, and you cannot get good ergonomics with the keyboard and the display connected, because you should be looking straight ahead, and your arms are going to be, I don't know, 18 inches, 15, 18 inches below that. There's just no way around it. So the problem is resolved by raising the external displays. And so if you look at that picture in my article, you can see the displays are, like 6 or 8 inches above on a shelf that's 6 or 8 inches above the desk surface, and then they themselves raise another 4 or 5 inches. And
Right,
so that brings them up so that I'm looking at the right spot on the
right,
display.
right. I still don't know where your scissors go.
Oh, but there's the shelf. They're sitting on the shelf.
So just
So I can put
everything
all
laid
the
out and boy.
yeah, yeah. Basically right underneath the monitors, there's all this room. Trying to keep hitting my mouth. And so there's lots of room there. The desk surface itself has room too. The most important thing, of course, in the desk surface is the wicker inbox. It holds important papers for the cat to sleep on.
Exactly, exactly. Okay, so we've covered why to get a new computer, why you chose a MacBook Pro, why you got the awesomest displays you could. Even maybe two ground doubles is as good as a home run in this case. We got your human interface device covered up. Now we get to talk about migrating to the new machine. What did you do?
There we go. I went completely from scratch. Completely. Meaning I did not use Migration Assistant. No how, no way. Um, and this was a little bit what I was talking about before. There was so much crud on the old machine, and I couldn't even identify it all. I mean, I at some point I was looking in library containers where apps tend to put stuff, and I found 400 folders that occupying 2.6 gig of space that hadn't been touched in 4 years.
Wow.
Like, and I don't know what it is. I don't recognize the app names. It's like, it's a problem,
No,
right?
how did you do
And
that?
so,
Did you use one of the tools for analyzing your disk, or did you just keep poking folders?
little bit of both.
Okay.
I mean, I used Grand Perspective and Omni Disk
Mhm.
Sweeper, and just sort of looked at things that held more data than I thought they should.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that was when I hit library containers. I'm like, what's in here? This
Oh.
this is big. And I sorted. I'm like, what are all these
I
things?
wish I could remember some app recently. It was like it was storing the data there, not the data about the data. It was storing the actual data
Oh
in
yeah.
there. And I was like,
Oh
what are
yeah.
you doing?
I mean, Apple Mail puts everything in your library folder, for instance,
Sure. Yeah.
which is annoying in its own way. But yeah, so just so much stuff there. And also, like, I hadn't been good about cleaning out my downloads folder. So I
Mm.
had 2,400 items
Oh,
in my
come on,
downloads folder for
Adam.
19 gigabytes. You might need it someday.
Have you set up
Um,
a new strategy for that?
I have. I am now
Okay, good.
deleting. I'm deleting quickly. I now have in my downloads folder. I'm deleting everything as soon as I'm done with it. So I now have. Let me look here. Uh, I have 20 items, and those two can be deleted. So I have 18 items that are still sort of in play. And so in my downloads folder. But yeah, I started completely from scratch. I decided that I would install apps when I needed them. not because I might need them. You never know. And so if you get into the like, well, I could use this someday. Who knows how long it'll be before you need it? And so there's it. I won't say it was. It wasn't easy, but it wasn't hard either. It was more like, oh, I need Keyboard Maestro. Oh, I need Raycast. Oh, I need, Affinity Publisher. And so I would every time I needed something, I'd go and download it and
And
install it
download it fresh.
and download it fresh. And I didn't bring over settings or anything else if I could possibly avoid it.
Now, one
So
thing I don't have full understanding of this, so I'm hoping you have more information on it, but there are universal binaries that work for Intel and Apple Silicon. What you may have had on your old machine would be just a pure Intel version. So migrating would
conceivably,
force you into Rosetta where you shouldn't be in Rosetta. But I think
that
there's
was
also
conceivable.
binaries that are just Apple Silicon. So you might
Yes.
get a lighter version. So there's every reason when you
Yes.
go from Intel to Apple Silicon to do
Yep.
your apps from scratch.
Absolutely. That was another aspect of the whole thing. And keep in mind, this is a machine that had been around for a long time. I had stuff on there that wasn't 64-bit,
Oh,
that wouldn't run
geez.
on. Yeah, right. I mean, it wasn't anything big, it was stuff that was sort of archived off, but nonetheless, I was like, "Oh, look, that's not even gonna run." So, it was just a really, really good opportunity to start fresh and to see kind of how hard it would be.
Mhm.
Like, we get into this feeling that we've got these carefully curated machines and things like that. Okay, so how true is that? And there is something to it, no question. I said I did have to figure out how to get Keyboard Maestro and BB Edit, which both of which they share files between machines via
iCloud.
iCloud or Dropbox or whatever. So I had to remember how I had those set up and sign into Dropbox and all that to be able to get everything syncing over. But once I did it, it all worked fine. And so it was a really kind of fascinating exercise. Probably the most complicated one I actually ran into was there's a program called Simon from Dejal,
Hmm.
and Simon's a website monitoring tool. So you
Okay.
can point it at any web page and say, "Tell me if it's up, tell me if it's down, tell me if it's changed," that
Hmm.
kind of thing. And that one, um, I really needed to. It took me a while to remember it because I only interact with it when it pops up a notification saying like Apple support page, yeah, Apple's newsroom page has changed.
Oh, that's how you find
Um,
out when stuff's going on?
yeah, yeah. Basically, it watches the web and tells me when certain things have changed. And
Sort of like an
so I
RSS
wasn't
reader
a,
almost.
a little bit, but it's again notifications, and it just you can point it. But it's also like, is your website up?
Mm.
So like if a site goes down, it'll alert you. That's where it kind of came from. But it's got a lot of configuration, and so like I needed to make sure I didn't need to actually move. It turns out that I didn't with that one. I didn't need to move the configuration over. I had to redo the configuration because it's actually a multi-app device, a multi Mac device application. So you can say check on this device and notify on this other device and things like that. So it took me a while to figure that back out again because I'd never run it on two Macs before.
Isn't it kind of enjoyable and revealing to find out what you do? Like, what the kind of
Yeah,
tweaks that you've done? It's like a discovery about yourself of, "Oh, I forgot I did that. That's cool." Except, "How did I do
yeah.
that again?" It's the second half of that equation. But you are learning about what you've done, what you've modified, and you realize what you actually how much you do affect your environment to build this happy little castle around yourself.
And there was one weird one actually, which was, I have Nicest Writer Pro macros that do some conversions from RTF to docx, and they weren't working.
Hmm.
And I couldn't figure out why for the longest time. Well, the longest time, I don't know, took me half an hour or something to solve it. But it was, and keep in mind, my other Mac is just on the other side of my desk, so I can walk around and do anything I need to get done. Like when this nicest my macro failed, I walked over to the other Mac and proved that it worked on exactly the same data. It's like, okay, so it's not the macro that's the problem. It really is somehow the what's going on here. And it turned out Rosetta hadn't been installed.
Oh, why didn't it
And
get installed when you
the
downloaded Nicest
uh,
Writer?
well, so no, the Nicest is native. That's not the problem. The problem is Nicest has this Nicest file converter tool, which is inside the Nicest Writer Pro package. It's a separate app. That's not native.
Oh.
And if you launch it manually, macOS sees it and downloads Rosetta. But if it's launched from within a macro, it just doesn't work. Like there's
Okay.
not enough. It
Without
doesn't
telling
trigger
you.
the Mac. Right, doesn't trigger macOS to say that it needs. So that one threw me for a little while. But that would have been true no matter what, right? Even if I'd done Migration Assistant, because Migration Assistant isn't going to move Rosetta over.
No, no.
Uh, so it was really, really interesting. Now, the other thing is here, I didn't use Migration Assistant to move anything from my home folder over. So
Oh,
like
really?
all my actual data, I did not move using Migration Assistant.
Because
However, because I was trying to see, do I
no,
use
no,
it?
but
I
you
don't
use iCloud, documents and desktop
that
syncing.
that's the thing. Is so basically I was like, okay, I do use iCloud desktop and I use iCloud Drive, desktop and documents syncing. I use Dropbox for certain things. I use Google Drive for certain things. And so once I configured those and had them do all their things, they brought everything over that I actually use.
Now, wait a
And
minute.
so
How is that proof that you actually use those things? Couldn't you have gigabytes of disk space
oh,
wasted in
yeah, yeah.
garbage you don't touch?
Oh, it could. No, there's no question. But the point is that there's a lot of stuff in my home folder on my old iMac that I don't use.
Oh,
That
that's
didn't
not in
sync
documents
over.
or desktop.
Not in documents or desktop,
Oh.
stuff that's in pictures, something. So my iCloud photos, well, that's synced, of course.
Mhm.
Um, so I got all my photos, but there's a bunch of other random graphics in that folder. There's stuff in movies. There's stuff in music. I mean, music. I use Apple Music now, and
Mhm.
so I, there's probably there's probably files in the music folder. I don't know, but
Mhm.
apparently I'm not missing them
Yeah,
because I'm
that's
using Apple Music
interesting.
for everything.
Right.
So it was that's what I'm saying it's just like if you just allow the cloud syncing stuff to work, and then look for things that are problems. So it turns out, for instance, what was it? There was some file, I can't remember off on what it was, where I was like, "Oh, I need that file," and I had to go get it from I think it was like a headshot, like I have a standard headshot
Mhm.
that I use when I upload a new account or something, and that was in my pictures folder, and I had to go get that from the iMac. And then I have an SSH private key public key pair that I use for SSHing into a couple of servers, and that wouldn't have moved over anyway.
Right.
But I had to go over and get that from the iMac.
Now, in terms of saving disk space, did you keep turned, on optimized Mac storage for documents and
No,
desktop?
I always turn those off
Okay,
because I want a backup.
because 'cause you're backing up this
If you,
Mac.
right, I'm backing up this Mac.
Right.
Anything on this Mac should be backed up.
Yes, let's say this loud and clear.
And
iCloud, Drive is not a backup. Backing up your iCloud
iCloud
Drive
Drive,
when originals live on your Mac are or is.
yes.
Same with photos.
So
If you have optimized
right, it's
photos on that
really one of
Mac,
those things.
then you're not getting
Anything you
back.
can change, anything you can act on is not a backup. That's the obvious thing. So if you're like iCloud Drive and Desktop, you can change all that stuff, right?
Mhm.
Yes, there's another copy
But you just
in the
changed it.
cloud. You just changed it, right?
Delete
It's
it, delete it.
hosed.
Yeah. It's better than
Um,
it saves you from you lost your laptop or you
yes,
somehow dropped your laptop in a toilet. But that's it.
but it does not save you from a bunch of other kinds of things.
Doesn't save you from
And
yourself.
yeah, right. The human error of like you overwrote it, you deleted it. Those are or it was corrupted. I mean, that can happen. Not unthinkable. And so to give you an idea, I was just looking here. I am somewhere around on my previous drive. I was frankly butting up against like I don't know, like 100 gig free, which is not very much
On
on
a
a
1
terabyte
terabyte?
drive. Yeah,
Okay.
that's too little on a 1 terabyte drive.
Right.
And so now I'm at basically 492 gig free
Wow.
on the new machine. Right.
Wow.
And so, yes, some of that is documents. I could probably move over. I probably will move over my archival stuff at some point,
Mhm.
although I may put it in a folder saying archival stuff. You didn't use this.
Or you could put that in cold storage and on a NAS or
Yeah,
something like that where you could get to it if
I
you ever
I
needed
have a
it.
couple of drives that I use for archival storage.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
What about
but
number of
so yeah,
apps?
hundreds of gigabytes.
Yeah. What about apps? How many apps did you have before and how many do you have now? I
Let's
think it was in your article,
see.
wasn't it?
Yeah, I was trying to look at that. Yeah, I had 170 before, and I'm at 100 now. I think I'm actually probably gone up a little bit since then. 106 now.
Yeah, in a few
Uh,
years you'll be back to 170,
yeah,
but in the
it'll
meantime,
it'll be back. Well, and I'm trying a little bit more. Like I wrote about this very powerful but thoroughly non Mac like program called Modern CSV, which is wonderful for modifying CSV files. And someone was telling me about another one called Smooth CSV. And so I downloaded it to check it out and installed it and checked it out. And like, nope, it doesn't do any of the stuff that I want from modern CSV. So I'm just going to delete it. Like, that's the answer. I really need
you're
to be
trying to
better
take
about
your
just deleting it.
Yeah, I wonder I'll talk to you in a year and see how good your habits are on that, whether you've really gotten
Hopeless.
religion.
Hopeless. I'm sure it's going to hopeless. We'll see how many hundreds of files are in my downloads folder. And yeah.
Usually what I do to keep myself from being silly and keeping stuff I don't need is I set up a Hazel rule to delete it inside of 2 weeks, and that makes me know that you put it in here, if you actually want that, you better get it out of this folder because it's just gonna go, and every once in a while I see it go, "Oh, shoot, I didn't mean that one," get it back out of the trash.
Yeah. 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 I've thought about that. I previously had an old version of Hazel installed, but the only thing I was really using it for was renaming files on the desktop that from .jpeg to .jpg.
Oh, that's an interesting
Um,
one.
and so at some point someone said, "Oh, you should just do a folder action script for that," and I'm like, "Oh, of course."
Well, I think
So I
that if you look at the
have not
under the
installed
hood
Hazel again.
for Hazel, that is what Hazel is doing is folder action scripts.
Oh, really?
But it's
Okay.
doing it elegantly and has a lot more rules and
Yes.
things you can do. Will have already talked about it on the show earlier, but you love longevity things. Wednesday was my 15-year anniversary with Hazel. And just man, I live on that thing. When it's not working and not doing what I want it to do, I got to tell you, the dev gets an email from me. Come on, Paul, why is this not working? And then it's usually
Well,
my
and
fault.
it would probably be pretty easy to do a folder action script on downloads that would say,
Yeah.
add 2 weeks to date added,
Hmm.
and then move to trash.
Yep. Uh,
So
Yeah, you definitely could.
yeah,
Hazel gives you a notification that says that it did it,
yeah,
and so you see it happening and wait a minute, why haven't I seen something move from that in a while? And that's when maybe something's degraded. And I have it on both of my Macs, so whatever I'm doing on
yeah,
both, it's keeping them all clean. So I live on Hazel, man.
yeah,
Especially with the work that I do doing the podcast, the audio files get really big. So I'm recording a high quality audio file with you right now that has both tracks. You're going to do one with both tracks. You're going to give it to me. So now I've got it twice. Then I'm going to put it into my audio recording software. That's another copy of it. Then I'm going to delete 2 of the tracks, save it again, and then I'm going to export it. And then it's going to still be in high quality. Then it's going to go to Auphonic and it gets an MP3 version. So I've got like 5 versions of this thing by the time I'm done. So you can imagine I'd be out of disk space inside of a month. But I have it
yeah.
every 2 weeks. It moves things off to my NAS. So I've got copies that I don't need any of these copies, as it turns out, but I want them. And so I've got those stashed away. Otherwise, I'd be out of disk space in a minute.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, and I don't really do stuff along those lines. So for me, it's just like these little irritations. Like I don't want to have I don't want to upload files to my to this content management system that are JPEG and JPG. I want one, just so I don't have 2.
That's funny. That does bug the daylights out of me. I never thought of having it just renamed. Like you're never allowed to use JPEG. Where'd that come from? Who's doing that anyway? I know one of my programs is
Serious.
doing it, but it bugs the crud out of me. And so then I put it in a URL and it's like, why isn't this working?
See, new rule in Hazel. Look at the entire drive and fix all of them.
Yeah, every time you find JPG, change it. I like it. I like it.
Probably would blow up, probably mess up some apps. I'll
Sure
bet there's
will.
apps that hard
Yeah,
code
probably will.
it. Um, but honestly, I mean, the cloud storage was actually the key for a lot of this
Yeah,
stuff. That that just being able to log into iCloud Drive, Dropbox, and Google Drive meant that 98% of the stuff I work on was suddenly available. And I kind of get why millennials and younger just don't see why you need storage. Like,
yeah,
but everything's on the internet.
yeah.
Why would I care? I'm like, I can't really
Or
argue
they
with
write in
you.
Google Docs or whatever. By the way,
Yep.
we talked about, cloud storage, like iCloud is not a backup, but Dropbox does have versioning, and you can pay for it to be more versioning. So that one
It's still
is
not a backup. It's versioned, but it's not really a backup in my mind. Partly because you're doing a lot of that stuff. Like, one of the other rules of backups is you should never be making any decisions.
yeah,
Backups should just happen,
yeah,
should be covering everything, and there should be no way that you can make a mistake that prevents it from happening for a particular file. And so, like, that's part of the issue was like, well, was that file in Dropbox? Maybe it was in Google Drive. Maybe it was an iCloud Drive. Maybe it wasn't on. Like, suddenly you're having to think about where everything goes, such that it would get backed up in by Dropbox or
right,
versions. So that's my main criticism there. I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. I mean, obviously the versioning is good in every way,
sure.
but
Maybe
it's
not
not going to
enough.
be the sort of thing yeah, it's not. You shouldn't be depending on that kind of thing.
Just this week,
I mean,
a friend of my son's, he texted me a photo of his, MacBook Pro screen, just all weird looking, pink with a black stripe down the middle and scratchy, crazy lines and everything, and he had it connected to an external display, and the whole display was gray, no menu bar, but you could see the cursor, and when he moved the cursor, it was moving. So it's alive, but you need a new Mac is gonna be the answer to this question. This is not a software problem. And he says, "So I haven't plugged my disk drive in since January. Do you think I can run a backup?" And I said, "Were you using Time Machine?" And he goes, "What's the difference?" "Do you plug it in and it goes?" He said, "Yeah." I said, "Okay, you're probably using Time Machine. So right now, plug it in, give it like a day, maybe 2 days, and maybe you'll have a backup. Good luck. Here's
Yep,
here's the
yep.
new MacBook Air I want you to buy."
Yeah. No, seriously, you got to do this stuff, and
Well,
because
but
you just,
he
I
would
mean,
have
like,
to make
no
a
one,
decision, right? And that's the wrong kind of
right,
backup, is the one where you have to
right,
decide to do it.
as opposed to just like, okay, I'll go get my backup. So, so yeah, so it's an interesting project to do all this stuff. I mean, the thing that I need to put back into place, actually, I have not yet done on the new Mac, is decide what I'm doing with Backblaze.
Mm,
Because with Backblaze, you can only have a single computer per account,
right.
um, and without paying more anyway.
Mhm.
And obviously, I could just start back. You can take over a backup.
Right.
So I could move everything over to the new machine, take over the backup, it would all just work.
Yeah.
But then I would have all that gigabytes and gigabytes and gigabytes of Backblaze stuff
But they don't charge you for it.
locally. No, but locally is the problem.
Mm,
I'd be wasting all that space locally on the metadata for years and years of Backblaze backups.
yeah, that's
And
right. You
so,
said there where did you find that? That's somewhere in application support in
yeah, application support slash
huh,
Backblaze. There's a couple of folders
interesting.
in there, and one of them, like, you just can't mess with, because I mean, basically, one of the things I discovered in the process of this was Backblaze was actually doing excessive logging.
Mm.
And so when I started this, I was also blowing away 60 gigabytes of storage space on Backblaze logs,
So
because it was creating a 2 gigabyte log every day.
in library application support, Backblaze restore logs, I have 0 items. So I
Not
wonder if
Backblaze restore.
yeah, I'm just wondering whether something had
Application
gone wrong.
support.
Backblaze restore?
Oh, I can't look on this machine because
Oh,
it's
it's
the
not
wrong
running on
machine.
there. Yeah.
I'd have to let me see if I can do it I can see if I get over the network. Okay,
You could also just let me know later, and then nobody in the audience but me gets to know the answer one or the other,
yeah.
but
But it's application support. But basically, yeah. So I mean, Backblaze had to actually fix they came out with a new version that fixed
excessive logging problem?
the excessive logging problem. So yeah, I went from like 2 gigabytes of log a day to 8 megabytes or something.
Okay.
Um,
So maybe it isn't a
it was
problem now.
basically it was spitting up all over. It was spitting up all over the cloud files.
Spitting up
Like,
like a
oh, I
baby.
can't. Well, it would see a cloud file stub, and it would say, "I can't back that up."
Oh, and put
With
that in the
3 log
log.
lines
Oh, geez.
over and over again. So in any event, yeah, so it's, but so that was 60 gigabytes on top of the 40 gigabytes or 49 gigabytes, whatever it was, of metadata.
Yeah, I
So
wonder where that
that's what
metadata
Grand
is.
Perspective showed.
I'm curious where that metadata is, because that would be fun to know. We
Did I
can,
say in this article? If you search in Tidbits, there's another article about Backblaze,
this is one of those
that
great things
explains
about
it.
having a blog where you write everything you think down is now this is
Yeah.
called Inside
You think I
Adam's
remember
Brain.
this stuff? I don't remember this stuff. Not possible. But yeah, you can go look.
Okay.
But they were really clear about, when I talked to the support folks, they were really clear, like, no, don't delete that stuff. Because that's how it knows what it has uploaded.
Backblaze update shrinks bloated logs.
That's the one.
All right.
So I do need to sort of get the offsite backup working better again from this machine. I was considering trying Crash Plan because they claim that they've got a home version or home like a low cost version again, so it's no longer just enterprise.
My experience with I was kind of glad that they abandoned the home market, and probably the main reason that I was glad that they abandoned us and forced me to go to Backblaze was how freaking slow it was. I upload I've got now I'm over 2 terabytes of data, but I had, like 1.5 terabytes, and it was up in 16 hours. I mean, it was insane how fast it was, and it would take they had to give you a 30-day trial of the other one you just mentioned that I all of a sudden gone from my
Crash
brain.
Plan.
Sorry?
Crash Plan.
Crash Plan. They had to give you a 4-week trial because it took 3 weeks for my data to get up there. So unless they've done something much different. So your screenshot is showing that in your library folder, you've got something called backblaze.bzp, and that does not exist for me in that first screenshot. So looking at where unless that's a hidden file in library, maybe it's a different library, or you're using some other tool to look at it, not the Finder, and that's showing files I don't see. Yeah, that you know what this might be. Looks like Omni Disk Sweeper. That might be the screenshot.
That's Omni Disk Sweeper, so it must be looking at something hidden.
Okay,
because this is not something they want you messing with.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I see what you're saying. So that's exactly why it wouldn't be available. Okay.
Yeah, it is not because this is data that you should never be touching.
Okay.
At all. So yeah, I must admit I'm not seeing it when I connect to that machine over the network either. But that's again, I'm not quite sure what it can show over the network over file sharing.
Yeah, there is a way that you can show those files from remotely, but it's not natively able to do that. So, okay. Well, this is probably now excessively boring for the student. If I discover something interesting, I will say it after the end of this conversation.
Yeah. So I mean, I think that the practical upshot of it is that I think so people should not be scared to try a clean start. Now, all that said, I still have the 2020 iMac. It still works fine. I have its bootable, or it's not bootable duplicate. I have a duplicate of it as well. So like I am not in any way at risk of losing anything because I'm not like getting rid of the old machine and having to make sure I've got everything stored. Like it's just a matter of connecting over the network to a machine that's sitting on the other side of the desk, and so. But it is a fascinating exercise to see how much of this stuff that you keep around is just there because you never got around to deleting it, or you just want to keep it forever, but you're never going to look at it again.
I've
There is that.
always been a
That's
big proponent of this, and I love to find even though you're wrong about the trackpad location thing, I'm really glad to know I have a kindred spirit in the belief in doing this. I'd be curious to see whether in, just a few years, 5 years, whether you'll do the same thing or whether you would say, it's been pretty soon. I'm not going to go through all that again. Because it's doing it the second time that's really hard to do.
Yeah, so this is sort of the second time I've done this. I had another article about what I called a level 2 clean install, which was I did Migration Assistant, but I did not move over any apps.
Yeah.
I reinstalled every app from scratch.
That's the most important one to me.
Yeah, and that did solve some problems. I was having some weird problems I just could not track down, and so I do feel like that there's some utility in that. The problem is that it's really hard to not want to like do library and bring your library folder over. But if you cannot bring library over, there's a whole bunch of stuff that's not you don't bring over unnecessarily. I will say that it was not a big deal for most apps to lose the configuration. A couple of them it was.
Huh.
Where I'm looking at that app going, "Whoa, that's wrong." It doesn't seem right. And so I had to bring over the configuration file from the old machine. But one or two, really not very many.
Huh. Well, this just in. I'm looking at, I downloaded and installed OmniDisk Sweeper, which apparently didn't make my cut on my last clean install. It was gone from my machine, but I'm glad I've got it back. In users, Allison, library, I do not have a folder called backblaze.bzp on this new machine. Cloud storage is there, and that's got Google Drive, Dropbox, Keep It. 192 gigabytes. Application support, 38 gigabytes. But I don't have that Backblaze folder. So I'd be curious what's the story with that?
Well, you'll have to run, when we run OmniDisk Sweeper for good, you'll have to see because something must be taking up that space.
You mean in the library?
It's got to be tracking that stuff somewhere.
Yeah. No, I am running.
Are you looking in the right library folder? Are you looking at the top level library folder?
I was looking in the users, not the top level.
No.
There it is.
User.
Okay, 12 gigabytes. And yours was 102. Interesting.
Yes, but you saw like the 60 of that was, or 59 of that was the logs.
Oh, right. Okay, that was
41 was the BZ backup.
So that was before they shrink the bloated logs.
Yes.
Okay,
right.
So I've got under a gigabyte in logs now.
Right, and that should be. I mean, I forget what mine was afterwards, but it was really. I mean, it shrunk it, exponentially.
Okay,
it really did go, to like 8 megabytes or kilobytes even.
So with them fixing the bloated log things, though, does that change your decision to whether to adopt the old backup?
No. I mean, it's still 41 gigabytes of data that's just keeping track of what I backed up over the years.
True.
What I need to look into is if you can just start a new backup
without destroying the other one,
without taking over.
You can. Right. Well, sure you can, but they might erase the other one.
They will in a year.
Oh, so you could do it and see how big it is.
As long as you sign up for, you click a button, you get a year of extended version history.
Right.
And so basically the idea would be is I would do it, and then within a year I would have to make sure I had all that data moved over.
Oh, right. Well, you could do it right at the beginning and see if it's almost as big. If this Backblaze directory in the top level library is almost as big as the other one, then screw it, just take over the other one and kill the new one.
Right, that's true too.
Yeah.
My suspicion is it won't be though. I mean, look at yours. Yours is only 12 meg or 12 gig, whereas mine was 41.
Yeah.
Which says to me that I've been using it for a lot longer.
Well, I've been using it for
it's the versioning
at least a decade. Not
really okay.
Not forever, but
yeah.
Whenever CrashPlan abandoned us, that's how long it's been.
I've used it since 2018. I see in the article.
Oh, okay.
So, So yeah, but on the other hand, it's also possible that like I may change files more. You may like create and delete more, and that changes what it
Uh,
records.
February 9th, 2017 is when I switched.
Oh, so that's interesting. So you've got
A lot of
much less. I mean, like 12 gig, I would probably say, yeah, whatever.
yeah,
41 gig seems like a lot more
it
for you've
does.
been using it longer than me.
Yeah, and I mean, I mess around a lot. You and I could compete on how much we mess around in our Macs.
Who's modifying more files today? Because my understanding is it's like every time it has to track that a file has been modified,
Oh, okay.
that stuff adds up. Because it's
Yeah,
tracking, like because it's tracking the over time all the versioning.
right. I've got a lot of
So,
stuff in
but
Git, also, which is another way of tracking stuff with versioning. I've got a lot of data in there. Basically, a lot of text files go that way, so those would be getting churned all the time, every time I do a push and a
yeah, well,
pull.
but text files are so small.
Yeah,
That's part of it.
but if it's
I mean,
metadata,
they might be big, right? It
might be
might
the
not be,
same
or it would be
as
the same.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
So in any event, it's all interesting stuff. And you're right. I mean, 40 gigabytes is not the end of the world. But it is, it is enough where like, maybe I'll try something different for a
that's
change.
like saying that
Or see
extra
if I
2
can
pounds I
work
gained
around it.
that extra 2 pounds I gained
Yeah.
over the weekend isn't that much, but it turns out they add up.
Mm, mm.
Well, if you enjoy having, revealed to yourself what you do to your Mac and what's important to you, it's a really I think it's a fascinating thing to do a clean install like what Adam did here, and, I love that you wrote it up, and it tickled me hearing you walk through the same thing that I've done so many times, but you did it differently and added new information as always.
Well, and I have to say, your approach of recording absolutely everything you do in the mind map of doom, like, I'm impressed, but, like, I'm not sure I wanna do this again soon enough that it would be less work to record everything for the next 5 years than to just start over again in 5 years.
Yeah, yeah, I don't know whether there's value or not, but I just enjoy the heck out of doing the process. It does help me when there's those things like I can't remember, how do I get that from here to here? And often the answer
Yeah,
is, yeah, there isn't a migration path. You have to export it there and import it here. For example,
right.
audio hijack. Those sessions, you have to export them and import them back in. They don't come over naturally. And once I write that down, then I stop looking. I don't waste time trying to figure out where's that export button?
I wonder if and again, we're talking 5 years, right?
Mhm.
But this might happen again. I wonder if we will be at a point where, the AI assistants will be sufficiently good that you just ask them that question.
We
Like,
won't be
that's
in
how I got the SSH stuff moved over.
We aren't gonna be in front of the microphones. They are.
Well, that's for sure. But like, I mean, but no, I'm serious. Like, like I was like, yeah, oh, the SSH fingerprint's failing. There's some kind of private key thing. Let me ask ChatGPT,
Yeah.
and it gave me the exact answer on the. Oh yeah, okay, I know, and I know how to do it once I'd been,
Reminded.
pinged right, the right thing. I was like, oh right, it's a hidden .ssh folder at the home folder, and there's files in there, and yeah. So, but often that's all I need is that trigger, and
Yeah.
so like I'm
Things you
never
used to
quite sure
know.
how much it's important to record all that ahead of time rather than just ask again in the future.
You aren't making fun of my mind maps. How dare you? All right, on that
You should
note of
we
contentions.
you should feed your mind map to your chatbot.
Ooh, that would be fun. I have yet to make my own chatbot, but we gotta stop starting new conversations, Adam.
I am not good at staying on topic.
No,
It's
no, maybe we
one
could
of my
do that.
problems.
Maybe we could do that next time. All right, Adam. It was great having you on the show as always. People should go to tidbits.com to read all of the wonderful things that Adam and other lovely folks there at Tidbits write to keep us informed and give us more knowledge. It's great.
More knowledge. Thank you for having me.
I hope you enjoyed this episode of Chit Chat Across the Pond. Did you notice there weren't any ads in the show? That's because this show is not ad supported. It's supported by you. If you learned something or maybe you were just entertained, consider contributing to the Podfeet podcast. You can do that by going over to podfeet.com and look for the big red button that says support the show. When you click that button, you're going to find different ways to contribute. You can donate one time through the big donate button with a credit card or Apple Pay, or you can use PayPal. If you want to make a recurring contribution, click the Patreon button. Keep in mind, I don't charge Patreon for Chit Chat Across the Pond or Programming by Stealth episodes, just once a month for the NosillaCast. That keeps it simple. If you want to contact me for any reason, you can email me at allison@podfeed.com, and you can follow me on Mastodon at podfeed.com/mastodon. Maybe you want to talk to other Nosilla castaways? You can do that in our Slack group at podfeed.com/Slack. Thanks for listening, and stay subscribed.